My senior Spanish professor was not a very happy man. Proud, but not very happy. He was an artist, a printmaker if I recall correctly, but rather than teaching his chosen passion at Texas A&M University Kingsville, he taught the senior level Spanish class at the college. Born in California before coming to Texas, he had the look of a California Mexican, which is to say he wore loose guayaberas, Birkenstocks, and had the lean and fine features of someone with Yaqui Indian ancestral heritage. He wore his long gray hair in a loose ponytail low on his head. He reminded me of Crucito from Blood In, Blood Out. He was a man very proud of his heritage, and yet he was forced to teach out of his element in a subject that was his second choice to third and fourth generation Tejanos, Pochos, No Sabo kids, and Gringos. Growing up, I always felt very disconnected from my heritage as a Latino and a Tejano. The thing that really connects and unites us is the language, and my parents refused to teach me any of it. My mother, being half white, didn't grow up with the language herself and couldn't pass along much to me. My father was routinely ostracized and received corporal punishment in school for speaking Spanish, though he is bilingual. Rather than have his sons go through the same torment, he didn't make a special effort to teach us. It's a common story of assimilation where I come from. Most of the kids my age didn't speak fluent Spanish growing up, and when we would try, those who did know the language would laugh and wouldn't help us to learn. I had taken 4 years of Spanish in high school, but that was bullshit. The curriculum consisted mostly of watching the Spanish cinema classic Selena, while the teacher/baseball coach discussed strategies with his players in the front row. I had taken 3 semesters of college Spanish where everyone just kind of passed me along because I was charming and attentive. I tried my best, but I've always had a lack of confidence when it comes to speaking Spanish out loud, and that is a large portion of those classes. I once got a paragraph into an informative speech about the history of Spain in Spanish, which I had diligently researched and practiced in the mirror. When I got up to deliver it in class, I stuttered once, gave up, and started talking passionately in English about the heroism of El Cid, La Reconquista, and the Spanish Revolution. I got a D. My friend Al, who was on the 10 years bachelor's track in college, taught me the pithy catchphrase, D is for diploma, dude. I hoped that I might scrape by, but I also knew that I was coming to a crossroads. This Spanish professor had earned his reputation for failing seniors the last semester before their graduation, and no big surprise, I would be meeting him the final semester before my summer graduation. I tried so hard in that class. I practiced with my roommate every day since she spoke much more fluently than I did. I watched all my favorite movies in Spanish to get an ear for the language. What good would it be to be able to recite, Obi-Wan nunca te dijo que pasó tu padre? Le dijo le suficiente. Él dijo que tú la mataste. No, yo soy tu padre. I had to answer the questions in el subjuntivo or el futuro or conjugate the super irregular verb haber. I spent a weekend early in that July summer session locked in my bedroom on my computer writing and rewriting an introductory Spanish essay that would describe my background to the rest of the class. I painstakingly crafted this essay in Spanish to the best of my ability using what I had learned up to that point, which, if you will recall, was anything for Salinas and hit the ball and run real fast to first base. I knew it was my best effort. When I handed in my essay, the professor held me after class. Pulling me aside, he said quietly, "Hey, listen, you're not going to be able to pass just by writing everything in English and then putting it through Google Translate." I was so devastated and deflated, I couldn't even speak. He handed my paper back to me with a 65, a D. Well, D is for diploma, dude. After that first essay, he started taking pot shots at me. He would speak to everyone in English and then switch to Spanish when it came to me. I was the program director at the college radio station and an MC for all kinds of events around the college, so he would poke fun about how fluent I was in English and how I was stuttering and mumbling in Spanish. One day it all came to a head as he went down the roll sheet checking attendance. He came to my name, and with a sneer, he used the nickname that I gave him at the beginning of the semester, Sonny Garcia. He took a deep breath, and finally, in Spanish, he proceeded to chide me in front of the class. He said, ¿Por qué usas un nombre de niño, Sonny? Sonny es un nombre de escuincle. Tú tienes un nombre de verdad, Eusebio. Ese nombre impone, tiene fuerza, tiene respeto. Y tú lo tiras a la basura para andar con un apodito de criatura. Ya no eres un chamaco, eres un hombre. Compórtate como tal. Which means, why are you using a child's name, Sonny? Sonny is for little kids. You've got a real name, Eusebio. That name commands respect. It has strength. It has weight. And you throw it away to go around with some childish nickname? You're not a boy anymore. You're a man. Start acting like one. The room was silent as I, admittedly, slowly processed what was being said. I started to feel a lump forming in my throat. I realized that people were waiting for a response. Was I just going to let him talk to me like that? Did I even understand what he told me? What I said in my response was something like this. My name is Eusebio Laurel Garcia IV. Eusebio Garcia II was a paratrooper in World War II. I don't know much about him, but I once saw his war record at my grandmother's house, and it read like the History Channel's fall lineup. He was there on D-Day with Operation Dragoon, the Battle of the Bulge, the Battle of Dresden. He was at all of them in one of those divisions of minority soldiers that always got sent first to be cannon fodder. He made it through all that blood and came back to Texas a corporal in the United States Army. Then one night he came home early from work to find my aunt, my father's eldest siblings, watching the kids. My grandmother was nowhere to be found. I mean, he searched through the dance halls and honky-tonks in Alice, Texas, and found her with another man. I'm not sure what happened that night, but when I read his death certificate while working for the sheriff's department, it said he was shot dead on arrival. He made it through the bullets of the European theater and caught one right here in South Texas. My dad was 5, so he didn't know my grandfather much. Dad had it rough after his dad died. He was the youngest of 4 and has all kinds of stories that he tells with a laugh, but they all kind of sound like intense trauma. The time when he was home alone at age 7 and Hurricane Carla came through, but he didn't know it was going to storm, so when the power went out, he hid under his bed and cried all night, waiting to die. The time that Grandma left town for a week and they got evicted, and while she was gone, so my tia Alicia had to take care of all of them, and they spent the nights living under an overpass. He essentially grew up feral until his best friend moved to town right next door. That's my uncle, Floyd Harris. The Harrises were the only black family in my hometown, Alice, Texas, because right before desegregation, Alice closed the black school in town rather than integrate. Thanks to them, my dad had someone watching over him. Floyd's mother, Mary, made sure he was fed and clothed. She checked his report card and made sure he had somewhere to sleep. She gave him the same kind of loving care and discipline that she gave Floyd, something he never got from my grandfather's family, who still lived in town. I mean, on the other hand, Floyd's father is the one that taught him how to work. He's the one that showed him how to play football so well, he became an all-state defensive tackle. He's the one that showed him how to play baseball and how to box. He's the one who taught my dad how to drive, how to fish, and how to hunt. He set my dad on the straight and narrow and taught him to be a good man, a great man, a man whose name is Eusebio, but everyone calls Chevo. Floyd's father passed away a few months before I was born. My mother had decided that I would be named Eric, but she was in no condition to make that known. It was my father that decided to name me Eusebio Laurel Garcia IV, and after my grandfather, and my great-grandfather, and my great-great-grandfather, Eusebio Laurel, who was given one of the largest land grants in Texas before the Texas Rangers and Richard King carved it up. My family didn't cross the border crossed us. But to make it easy for the quarter of my family that had trouble with my proud, strong name, they would use the name of the man that we could be proud of. A man that stepped up to take care of his neighbor's kid. My nickname would be the full name of Floyd's father, Sonny. So I don't have any regret or embarrassment about carrying on the legacy of those two men. In fact, I'm pretty proud of it. So, you can call me whichever name you want, but put a little respect on it. He didn't say much to me after that, like for the rest of the course. I continued trying my best, and in all likelihood, it was not good enough. As the day of my final grades approached, I actually went super mega ultra Mexican Catholic and lit a St. Michael candle and said the St. Michael prayer every night for 9 nights. I did the straight up novena like I was a viejita waiting for biopsy results. Somewhere between that and the story of my name, I passed Spanish, graduated, and moved on to the next chapter of my life. It must have been the story or the novena, because it sure as hell wasn't because I learned how to conjugate the verb haber. And now I have a son. For years, people asked me if I was going to name him Eusebio V, but I decided not to do that. The United States passport application form only supports up to the 4th. His name is Roque Laurel Jacinto Garcia. Rocky for short. Laurel for the heritage, Jacinto for the city where he was born before it was renamed for a white supremacist, Sam Houston. And I speak to him in Spanish to reconnect with the culture. He might be a little güerito with reddish blonde hair and maybe hazel eyes, but he's going to be the next in a proud line of Latinos, Tejanos, no matter what he decides to call himself.